Yeah, thank you for reminding me, actually. My colleagues take the mickey out of me that I'm plugging the podcast at every opportunity. So, yeah, here you go. Open up your podcast app on your phone. A little bit radical, subscribe. Um, I'm also really disappointed with this very clearly pre-children headshot of me. So I'm feeling quite old up here. I'm going to take you back to 2010, 14 years ago, almost to the day, actually. It was a wet weekend in March 2010. And a retired engineer got in his car, and he was a part-time glider pilot as well, as it happened. And he took with him 3 mobile phones, 3 SIM cards, a thermos full of tea, and his laptop. And he drove up and down the M1 motorway all weekend. Every mile he stopped, and he pulled over into the hard shoulder. This was pre-smart motorway, you remember. So he could safely pull over into the hard shoulder. And he tested each of the SIM cards in the phones. He called and texted his wife, his poor long-suffering wife, who had to listen to him all weekend doing this. Then he would get back in the car, drive another mile, pull over, test again, record the results in the spreadsheet, do it again, drive another mile, pull over, test, record whether the call and the text got through. What on earth was he doing? Well, he was a member of giffgaff's online community. And this was 6 months into giffgaff launching, and the network was consistently going down, which I don't know how much any of you know about the telco industry. That's not good. But he was actually a member of the community, and he was a customer, and he took it upon himself to do this test, and he'd gathered all this data by the end of the weekend, which he sent to Vincent, one of our co-founders at Standing on Giants, who was the head of community at giffgaff, who forwarded it on to the engineering team, and they were able to fix the critical network failure based on his data. They were able to triangulate it, which is fantastic, obviously. And this was just one of many examples of what the community did and still does for giffgaff. Are there any giffgaff customers in the audience, by the way? If you just raise your hands. Yeah. Only one. Blimey, oh dear. And you, good. No, so you might know about the community a little bit. But they would design better marketing materials than the marketing team could do. They'd A/B test a community-created ad versus a marketing team-created ad, and the community one inevitably would perform better. They created a secondary distribution system for micro SIMs when the iPhone 4 came out, and giffgaff had forgotten to order any micro SIMs, which again, don't know how much you know about the telco industry. That's not good. So the community took it upon themselves to cut out micro SIMs from the big SIMs and send them around. So, an incredible community-powered business. And our founders, Robbie and Vincent, who had met on the startup team after about 3 years, thought, wouldn't it be amazing to take this community-driven model out into the world and to other businesses? And that's why we exist today, Standing on Giants, and we work with kind of these people that you would recognize here. So we're going to talk today about what a community is and the kind of benefits that it could bring to your business. So, we're also a B Corp. Who's heard of the B Corp movement? Hands up. Oh, quite a few of you. Yeah, great. Yeah, so we very much believe in community as a way for businesses to become better businesses, more purpose-led, more prioritizing people and planet as well as profit. And the now called, recently renamed Department for Science, Innovation and Technology named us as one of the top 100 safety tech providers a couple of years ago. And so we think that online communities are a great way to ultimately keep your customers safe online. That's the shortcut for that one. So let's talk about the value. I need to get out of the way, don't I? Because I'm just standing in front of the slides. So there's 3 concrete areas of business value that you can think about with a community. And I know that a lot of you will be thinking, oh, well, it's all very well for that startup giffgaff who had customers driving up and down the motorway. What about my business? So here we go. This is where you can start thinking. First of all, cost saving. This is the most kind of simple and straightforward and well-known use case of an online community, an online forum. If you can get customers answering each other's questions, they don't have to call your call center, and you deflect support cost away from you. That's the most simple use case. also fantastic for growth and revenue. Members of communities are more engaged, they're more loyal, their lifetime value is great. In your world, they're going to be more likely to stick with you and pay, I would say. And then also we're seeing increasingly businesses want to talk about this one, the future-proofing one. What insights can you get from your community members? A community can be like an always-on focus group to really understand what customers are thinking. All of this, though, needs to be built on a foundation of trust and engagement. And I'm sure that all of you in this room are acutely aware of how important trust is when we're dealing with our customers. So you need to build that. You need to build that almost a new relationship. It's not a transactional relationship with your customers. It's a two-way thing. You're giving into the community, they give you stuff back. That's what we're going to talk about. Here's how that support deflection example works in a very, very simple form. You know this. You run contact centers. A customer rings. There's an agent who has to answer their question. And so the only way you scale that operation is, well, you either have agents who can manage 5 different conversations at a time on chat or whatever, but ultimately you need more people who can answer more calls. Whereas in a community, you could have those same 3 agents change their job to community manager and have them take a more proactive approach in a community. They can nurture a group of highly engaged and knowledgeable members who can then answer thousands of queries without a customer ever having to contact you in your call center, in your contact center. I'll give you some concrete examples of that in operation later. And there's just a key distinction between community and social media as well, and what community kind of is not. So I think in sort of traditional kind of social media strategy, we have a platform, be it Meta, be it Twitter, whatever, and we're broadcasting messages out. You can even apply this to kind of email, really, and how we contact our customers. We broadcast out stuff, and they consume it. That's not great for engagement. You get some engagement back, but it's quite sporadic. It's quite hard to control. Some people open an email, great. 20% of people might read it, if we're doing well. Whereas in what we're trying to do in a community, we're trying to connect people to each other. We're trying to get our customers to talk to each other. I want everyone to be really honest now and raise your hand if the idea of your customers talking to each other absolutely terrifies you. Well done. Yeah, well done. A couple of you. Don't be terrified. Really good things can happen. I'm actually glad most of you are not terrified of that, so that's brilliant. So when our members of our community start talking to each other, that's where we really get the value, because they're helping each other solve their own problems. And how do we get them to do that? We can't just say, here's a community, join it, off you go. We have to actively manage them, and we have to hold their hand up. This is what we call the commitment curve. So what we have down in the bottom there, the foundation, very easy behaviors that are easy to do, just sort of reading, being welcomed to the community, low effort activities. And then through community management, and these are real people who are managing this community, getting to know the members, knowing what they're interested in, connecting them with other people who are interested in the same thing, connecting them with someone who can answer their question. We slowly move them up this curve to when they're in the highly engaged member category. Now, the more of these people you have, the better. But actually, as a proportion of your membership, your highly engaged members are only 1% to 2% of the membership, and then in terms of your total customer base, even smaller, probably 0 point something. But when you get a group of highly engaged members that are the most knowledgeable, that are happy to be on your forum, answering other customers' questions, helping other customers, creating guides, creating videos, whatever it might be, when you encourage that, that's when you get the magic happening. But you need to handhold the members up here, and that's mostly what we do at Standing on Giants. We have community management as a service, and we do this for our clients. But it's a process to go to, and I see so many businesses want to start a community and just kind of set up a platform and then just hope that magically everyone will know what to do. But if you imagine, this conference is a great example. We come in, we're welcomed, we're given a badge, we're shown to a table, rather than just kind of wandering around by ourselves, figuring out, what to do. So it's about guiding members to help them do that. And so those highly engaged members that I talked about, so we've got a very small percentage of our customers that are going to do the most useful things, small percentage of the members. And this is how valuable they are. So they give the 80% of the best answers. They're the most helpful. They're answering the most questions. They're popular, so they're trusted. So they can make this place a kind of safe, inclusive space. I was speaking to a former client at O2 the other day, and I was asking him, why do you think you have these amazing, highly engaged members? I'll show you one of them in a second. It's really mind-numbing, and he was mind-boggling. And he was like, I just think that mostly, because we are O2, they know that coming to this space, it's a safe space, that it's going to be moderated, that they're going to be listened to. They're not going to be piled on, like when they go and talk about things on public social media. And it's the highly engaged members that help create that. They're the most encouraging of other members. Again, I've mentioned children already today. So any of you with children know the importance of positive reinforcement when you want to get your child to do something. It's the same with community members. You need to be positively reinforcing when they're helping people, and highly engaged members help you do that. And they're the most creative, so they can create brilliant guides and materials, etc. Right, here is that highly engaged member I was going to tell you about. So O2 have probably a group of, at any one time, between 10 to 20 highly engaged members, as that we would call. MI5 is one of the best ones. Here he is. He likes to have the compare the meerkat as his avatar, which is all good. He's been a member of the community since 2012. 18,000 solutions he has provided to other customers. He's not an O2 employee. I'm sure there's plenty of O2 employees that could only dream of having provided 18,000 solutions to customers. You can see he's done over 120,000 posts, and then he's received a lot of what's called kudos on the platform. So, and even when, and you're like, oh, that's all very well, but what if these members leave? What if he goes and becomes a Vodafone customer? Well, the material they create is obviously there forever in your community, and here's a good example. How to get your pack code from O2, created by a community member. 900,000 views from a former member. So the content is there forever, has great SEO value. It's going to be helpful for your customers, forever. So there's an infinite value to that. This is what the O2 community looks like. 15 million annual solution views in the community. 97% of the best answers are given by other members, so there really is that peer-to-peer element going on. And then, if you can see this one, this is a conservative estimate as well, because obviously you have to make some assumptions in support deflection, so we keep them on the conservative side. £3 million in annual support deflection because customers are answering each other's questions, preventing and stopping them needing to contact. So, ask what would that look like for your organization? What difference would that make if you could take, between, and we have other customers where it's 1.5 million. If you can start taking millions out of your support organization and empower customers at the same time, what would that look like for your organization, and would that be worth doing? I'm sure you would. Smaller brand, utilita, and a fresher community, even after 7 months, they'd reduced call volume by 15,000 calls. So you can achieve these kind of results very quickly. O2, very mature community, over 10 years old. Utilita now going into its 3rd or 4th year, but this was within 7 months they were reducing the calls into the call center, which is great. I'm going to show you a different community now, Airbnb, as a kind of gold standard. So we've worked with them for about 8 years. And this is their community for their hosts. So the people who are trying to run their own business through Airbnb. And the purpose of the community is quite simply to create better hosts. So this is a place where the hosts can go, get tips on everything from the best cleaning policy to pet policy, to sharing photos of their listing and getting feedback from other hosts. And so the purpose is quite simply to create better hosts. And the results are quite staggering. So members of this community, and there's 1.5 million of them, earn 2.5 times more on Airbnb than non-members because they're receiving help from other hosts, because of that peer-to-peer help that's going on. What would that number look like in your organization if you could make a group of customers 2.5 times more successful, 2.5 times less likely to default, 2.5 times acceleration in their payments? That is the kind of thing that you can do with customers if you empower them with knowledge. And these are the kind of macro stats. This is a very big community. So again, this is like a real kind of, this is a Rolls-Royce community. I won't lie. So we've got 1.5 million members, 390 million post views annually, and 143,000 posts. So it's an incredible resource for the business, which they built over time. And the reason it's so successful is because of active community management, and the members are this much more engaged. So I have to admit, I used a competitor and booked my hotel room last night with Booking.com. So I'm not completely brand loyal here. But this is the difference between Airbnb and Booking.com's communities. Booking.com's is not actively managed. It's just one of those it's a platform where those who are interested can go and post some stuff. Whereas Airbnb's is actively managed by us, and their top members are 10 times more engaged. Again, my message, if you're going to do this community thing, this forum thing, you need to invest in the active management, that person who's going to help the members be the most successful and do the most for you. And it won an award a few years ago, but that's fine. We talked about future-proofing as a value, and so I wanted to give you an example of that, and just a fun one. So Lego, obviously a great brand, very loved brand, but they've got the Lego Ideas community where their members can create their own Lego creations, and then they go into this platform, and then the other members are allowed to vote on what their creations, like this car here, and then Lego actually make the ones that are the most popular. I personally bought a Fender Stratocaster Lego model a few years ago from this program of Lego Ideas. Again, I know that you might be thinking, well, all very well for Lego, but do you think that your customers might have an idea for how you could improve that you would like to hear? Actually, a community is a fantastic place to do that. And a lot of community platforms have something called an ideas module, which is where they can submit an idea, members can vote on it, they can discuss it as it's going along, and then you can update them on the status of that idea, whether you're looking at it, whether you're not going to implement it right now, whether you are going to implement it, and how empowering for your customers to see their idea come to life. And it doesn't need to be a massive thing like, oh, I've designed a whole new product for you. It can be, do you know what, that font on my latest bill is really hard to read. Have you considered using this one? That's the level that you can go to. And the difference that can make is actually still huge. And then finally, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the difference that community is making within organizations at the moment as well. Hands up if you use Microsoft Teams. Okay. Keep your hand up if you hate it. Yeah. Most of you. So during the pandemic, it was actually Richemont who are they're the parent company of a load of French luxury brands, Cartier, Montblanc, those kind of ones. And they came to us and they were like, we want to build a community of our cyber security experts on Microsoft Teams. Can you help us? And we said, honestly, we don't know. We can give it a go. And we had previously thought that an internal community of employees wouldn't really work. We didn't think that people would have that kind of level of engagement with their work. But luckily, we were proved wrong, and this has been incredibly successful. So again, this is their cybersecurity experts at the group. So it's kind of a community of practice. They're working across their different organizations in cybersecurity, and they need to talk to each other about cybersecurity, sharing best practices, sharing processes, trying to create efficiencies, across the group. And again, all we did really was put in active community management into their formerly Yammer, now called Microsoft Viva Engage community, and this is what happened. So the health index, these are third-party stats from a platform called Swoop Analytics. Some of you might have it in your Teams infrastructure. So the health index how engaged the community is, went from 7% to 61% with active management. The activity per user went up from 1.1% across the other communities in the organization to 16%. And this one, which is my favorite, reciprocal relationships. So ultimately working relationships that were being formed through this community. It's behind the lectern, luckily. It says 39%, up from 14%. So 40% of members of, this community were now making new working relationships across the group. Fantastic. We know that's good for collaboration, it's good for innovation, and it's good for sharing processes and creating efficiencies. Some more stats on this. So Heineken, we built a community called Data Stars for their data analytics talent. Again, community of practice. And these are, they love it, obviously, as these stats show. But I like the one in the middle the most. Has the community helped you collaborate with colleagues? 4.7 out of 5. Who here agrees that more collaboration in their organization is a good thing? Yes. Who thinks that because we're all working hybrid now, it's a bit more tough? Yes. So with active community management, putting it into your working practices, you can get that collaboration that we've lost from all being in the same place at the same time. And my kind of closing story that I'm going to tell you from Heineken, this is a fantastic case study with a really clear outcome. So the team, we originally built this in the Americas, so it was the data managers in the Americas, and Brazil had created an AI tool to clean customer records, and they cleaned 600,000 records with this tool. So that's great, obviously, that's really good. They then brought it to the community and said, hey, look at how great we are in Brazil. We've cleaned all these data records. And then Mexico went, oh, that's fantastic. We need something like that. But we need to change it a little bit for Mexico. We're going to do our own Mexico spin on it, which they did. And then Mexico went from the lowest data quality score at Heineken to the highest. And that is what community collaboration can do. A fantastic result off the bat, and you might go, well done, Brazil, great, good for you, we'll carry on doing our own thing. But actually, no, we're going to take that, we're going to build on it, and we're going to improve even more having used that tool. So a really clear outcome. That's it. That was really quite short, wasn't it? Short and snappy. I'm really happy to answer any of your questions. Please go ahead. Thank you very much. Oh, yes.
Perfect, thank you. Oh, it's working first time this time. Well done, guys.
I knew I was before lunch. I wasn't going to speak for ages. I think, we need to go and have some food.
Cool. So we've got some participants piping. So love the community answering questions, queries, ideas. What happens when the community gets it wrong? Who's liable?
Yeah.
And do our regulators like the FCA would be comfortable with those sorts of things?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was expecting this one. So you need really clear community guidelines from the off, and I think it's really important that a community in your kind of world, you need to be really clear with the members from the outset about all of this kind of stuff, like what is not giving financial advice, and that kind of thing. And that is the answer. So work with an expert to create community guidelines, and then you need robust moderation so that if you can see that members are starting to break those guidelines, that you can speak to them, educate them, explain why they can't be doing that in the community, and then you can escalate even further in the end, ban them if it was some just kind of destructive behaviors. That probably wouldn't be necessary ultimately, but yeah. And then in terms of regulation, I mean, one of the biggest communities we run is for Tesco Bank, so you can do this in a regulated industry. It is possible, but you're right, it needs to be managed, because you can't just let them run amok.
Cool, thank you. How do you control incorrect or bad data getting promoted?
Yes, great, yeah. So I think I'd say there's two elements to that. There's the technical part, and then there's the non-technical part. So on the technical part, any community platform kind of worth its salt has the ability for a solution to be marked as a verified answer or a best answer. This is really good when an answer is marked as the correct answer. Google picks it up and promotes it more when people, because most people, when they're searching for a solution, they're not necessarily going to go to your community to start with. They're going to Google it, and then your community can surface the solution, which is great. It's a great source of traffic. So verified answers is the technical part. So a customer comes to a question that's been asked before. They see that the answer is verified. They know they're getting the right information. There's then the people part as well, which goes back to community guidelines as well, but consistent education of the members about what you're doing as a company, about what the correct way of approaching this problem is, educating them around all the different solutions that you have, the various different regulations, the industry, all of that kind of stuff is very important as well. So a technical part that can help you, and a people part that's important as well.
Following on from that, about incorrect information, but do the users get any benefits or incentives for doing a good job in the community?
Oh yeah, great. Yeah, so yes, and then I would encourage you to think about both intrinsic motivation or intrinsic reward, and then extrinsic. So let's start with the extrinsic. So gift-gaff, as you probably know, you can get money off your bill for contributing in the community. It's important though that it was always from the start a very kind of it was a thank you, not a kind of reason to do the activity. I'll give you a real example. So they had this particular behavior that they were testing, and the reward they tested, they sort of ABC tested, giving £5 payback, giving £10 payback, and giving £20 payback. Now you might think, well, obviously you pay more money, you're going to get more of the behavior. Well, actually, no. £10 was the perfect amount, because at £20 they felt, I think, too under pressure, like it was a job, like this was really like too important, and like, oh no, I don't want to do it. And then £5 wasn't enough for them to be incentivized. So it's important to test and find the sweet spot, but the financial reward or any kind of extrinsic reward is not the reason that your members will start to do this stuff. It's about the intrinsic motivation of helping people. And this is not just airy-fairy, fluffy stuff. This is kind of neuroscience and dopamine and oxytocin, and we like helping other people. And so if you can create the right environment for that and then positively reinforce that behavior, give them validation, then that is how you'll get people being really committed to it. MI5, the guy with 18,000 solutions, yes, he gets a bit of money off his O2 bill every month, but that's not the main reason he's doing it. He's doing it because it's fulfilling something deeper inside him.
Excellent. And then from the other side of things, for colleagues, what do community forums do above kind of team group chats?
Above teams, groups, chats, yeah.
Team group chats.
So I think I would think probably the first thing is to think of them as communities of practice. So if you've got a specific specialism, be it data and analytics or AI or a specific interest group, then it's important for it is ultimately a Teams chat, and people post into it and people reply and stuff. But so often what we see is that if it's not actively managed, there's just kind of a lot of what I showed in the kind of social media example, a lot of broadcasting. It's like, oh, here's that thing. Everyone sees it, might get a couple of likes or whatever, and then we leave it. But actually, if you actively manage it, so you have a community manager who's going to jump in there and say, oh, Jeff updated us about this new QS query code last week. And as it's been a week, I thought that I'd tag a few people who might be interested in it. That's very different. This is a real example I'm telling you about, by the way. Then the 3 people see it, and then in this instance, then one of them was like, oh yeah, I clicked on it, but then I had this error, and then they can start having a conversation about how to actually utilize it. So that's the difference. It's about having someone who is actively managing the connection and the learning, and again, without that, what we see is that it's normally left to someone as their kind of side of desk responsibility. We all get busy, or they get exhausted with it. It's not part of their main job. It's not part of their objectives. It's not part of their bonus, to do it. So ultimately, it falls by the wayside. So that's the difference, I would say. Set up for a specific purpose rather than just chatting to each other.
Excellent. Right, thank you, Rob. That's really interesting. Thank you for the questions, and I'm sure you're around for the rest of the day.
Yes.
Yeah. Excellent.
At least
Thanks
for
very
lunch.
much.
Cheers.
Awesome. Thank you.